Hey there, and welcome to the Death to Vanilla podcast. I'm Stephen Burkhart, the host of the show and the founder of Burkhart Creative Agency. If you're looking for fresh ideas and tactical advice on how to take your marketing to the next level, you have come to the right place. We interview industry professionals who teach us how to courageously create, boldly innovate, and experiment, and they teach you to do the same. Now, we are super grateful that you're here and watching, but if you're looking to get off your phone and have a little less screen time, we have an audio-only version of the show, and we have links to that show in the description below. Without further ado, let's get into the show.
I wanna cause no problems. I just wanna live my life, but I keep on hearing about nonsense. Me and my dons ain't mobsters, but you know when you see imposters. We know how to read them faces, same way you know how to read them comments. If you wanna talk, let's talk, but around here, make sure you're walking your talk is constant.
So that's a funny part, and that was like one of the questions. Like as I was I was like, oh, I'm gonna impress him. I'm gonna be so well researched and learn about him. And then I go online and find like nothing about you, and I thought it was so funny. So I would love for you to kind of unpack that a little bit. Like you have a personal brand. You literally help people have personal brands, and yet I find so little information about you as a person. I'm like, that's so ironic, and yet. When I think about books like I don't know if you're familiar with like Build a Story Brand by Donald Miller and some of those things, that's like exactly what he talks about, is that it's not about you, it's about your customers and what you can do for them as like a trusted advisor and guide. And so you're kind of like the epitome of that in the sense that you have a personal brand, and yet nothing about you personally is really anywhere. Like I even like searched for your website for a bio and I couldn't find nothing. And I was like, this guy.
So I don't do that many podcast interviews. I don't have a strategy in place where I go and show up on podcasts like lots of other people do. I say yes when someone has put effort into how they've reached out. You had said to me that you had been following me for a while. You sent me a video and I knew that it mattered to you and that you appreciated me using my time in this way. And I said yes. So for me, I operate solely based on what matters most to my audience. I even say I feel weird saying that word, audience. Like I guess there are people that are watching me do what I do, or clients. I operate with what those people care about. Those people appreciate when I am efficient and I am considerate of their time. So you won't find on my website a big, long, detailed bio about who I am and where I've been. And, I think it's a bold assumption that I'm making to assume that you want to read that amount of detail of me. Okay. And so I challenge that a little bit by keeping it as concise as possible. My email blast, my rule is write it, chop it in half, and any sentence that I'm saying in 2 sentences that could be said in 1 sentence, say it in 1 sentence. I go back and edit until it is absolutely as short as possible. I also don't click send on the email unless there's something valuable in it. Beyond just self-promotion, I include a lesson or a tip or some kind of, even in a single sentence, a strategy so that someone gets something from spending their valuable life's minutes on me. And so I have had this feedback before, and I find it kind of entertaining. People are like, your bio, it's 3 sentences. I'm like, yeah, you don't really need to know any more about me. If you want to talk to me, we can talk about it.
Right.
Follow on Instagram, because I'll sometimes share little gems that people might not know. But then I sometimes have these moments where I'm like, I wonder how many people actually know I'm Canadian. I wonder how many people know that my first, work was an internship to become Charlie Sheen's social media intern. And I was actually fired by Ryan Seacrest. That's how my career started. Right. And I have all these little stories along the way.
What are they, Easter eggs or whatever they call them?
Easter eggs. That's what I was trying to, Easter eggs. Those are Easter eggs.
Well, it's so funny. So for me, when I think about a personal brand, and I'd love for you to correct me on this since you're the expert on this. For me, a personal brand is about the person, because you kind of like get to know them, you trust them. That's kind of like the entrance point in like the relationship building. How come you haven't leverage that more? Is it just because of the fact of like respecting people's time, or is it that, like you said, it's almost cocky in a way to kind of assume that people want to know that much about you? But for me, that's like, like, I don't know, like I think of like you have a picture with you and coffee and people are like, I like coffee too, blah, blah, blah. And then like starts a conversation. And I know that's a very oversimplistic view of it, but have you just found that not to be true, that like facts about you are actually that critically important for building your business?
Yeah, good question. I suppose I focus more on sharing my perspective on things, and always trying to teach people something as opposed to sharing details about me. But at the same time, I do that more on platforms like Instagram. Instagram for me is like a little bit more of like a diary. So I'm not as careful about what I share, what I don't share on a platform like that. I assume that everyone out there is my friend and they might be interested in, me chronicling my travel, whatever happens, I'm stuck in an airport, etc. I'll tell that story on Instagram. But some of the others, I hold back a little more because I make it more about my perspective and what I'm teaching. I guess I think also about my business. Day to day, I am, working with fairly high profile people on positioning, building, and promoting their brand, people at all different stages of their development. But my biggest client is a 32-year-old blogger from Denver, and, generated over $1 million last year in lots of different ways. And my clients are busy people. So I guess my longest client is a shark on Shark Tank. I guess so when you say like, I'm not afraid to put that stuff out there, but I guess, I operate with this intention of when I do have your time and attention, the most valuable commodity online, I'm going to make sure it's worth your while, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. It was just, for me, it was just the irony of the fact that you have like your name as a business, but it feels like a business page, was just like almost comical in the sense that I was like, this is not how I see most people presenting themselves as a personal brand. It's like very much about them. And certainly there's like benefit focus and stuff like that. But I thought that was almost funny in a way where I was like, like that's really weird. He has a personal brand and he doesn't even have a bio. It just made me laugh. And not that you have to have one. Obviously it's a little bit intentional on your part. And so now as a creator, I gotta say your like content is super on point. Like your photography is incredible. I love it. I would imagine that's all been very intentional on your part. But how did you start building that? Like, what are the things you started working through when you were building your own brand, as far as having that attention to the detail and the imagery and the quality of what you were putting out there? Because I know like a lot of times people are like, oh, like I get super good engagement from like shooting a video on my phone and stuff like that. But then I go to your site and I see like, no, like these are professionally done photos. Like these look really, really good, super polished, super professional, super on brand. So yeah, walk us through like the whole process you went through in developing that.
Sure. So the only way it can be what it is today, and certainly far from perfect, but the only way it can be that way is by starting and getting better. You have to start. So when I look at my feed, which I have not archived, because for all those people look at it now and go, wow, this is so beautiful. All these pictures taken in, 20 cities around the world. Some of the my hair is getting grayer, by the way. So some of those photos I need to be careful because the hair in real life is a lot grayer than it is in the photo. Some of them are like 2-3 years old.
That's fair. You're catfishing them.
Yeah, exactly. But, it didn't look like that when I started. And I think by sticking with it and having a goal in mind, you build on it and it gets better and better and better the more you invest in it. So for me, I'm a terrible photographer. I could never be like a triple threat in my business and do graphic design and do social media strategy and do photography. Couldn't do it. So I learned early on that when you can't do something, you need to hire someone else to do it. That's better than you.
Right.
End of story. When you're not good at something, find someone who is good at it and rely on them to deliver that for you. So in my, when I started to travel more and when I started to do more content marketing, I thought, here's something. Why wouldn't I, when I'm in these cool cities, why wouldn't I arrange a photo shoot I use a service called Flightographer. The founder is a great friend of mine, and it's a really cool Canadian-based website that started as travel photography, capturing families on vacation, but now they've expanded. I was one of their first creators, if you will, people that need photography. And I did over 20 photo shoots with them.
Oh, wow.
All over the world. So I have a bank of photography that I pull from for those feed posts. Those take me the least amount of time. And for me, I care less about it looking perfect. I used to care more about that now. And honestly, I guess maybe as I'm aging, I just care less about it. I care less if the colors match perfectly and it's totally on point, and more just like get that post out there and get it done. For me, it was more efficiency. It was like, how can I just take care of this and not have to worry? Like, I know it's like, sounds kind of like high drama. Wow, 20 photo shoots. I travel a lot. Travel's a part of my brand, but it's just done. It's just taken care of. The photos I'm posting this week in Colombia were taken 2 years ago, and no one knows. I just can't change my hairstyle. But that frees up time for me to think about other things that only I can do or only I can think about. And I would say, you got to start. Don't worry about having a perfect aesthetic and having a perfect brand to start. Really just start. I posted a reel today. I haven't posted a reel in ages, and it's not that great. And as soon as I posted, I realized I had text that's cropped out of the view from feed. Well, it'll get better the next time we do it. No stress. No stress.
Right.
You just got to start.
So it's kind of interesting you would say that, because I feel like there is like these two camps, and one is which is kind of where you're at, which is get stuff out there, get better over time. And then another camp, almost kind of like how you handle your emails, where it's like you're spending so much time making sure it's exactly what it needs to be, for, quality control, because, it's like the idea of the competition out there, because there's no more gatekeepers, is insane. Like, there's like 720,000 hours of video getting uploaded to YouTube every day. Like, can you really afford to put out something that's not on point? And so what is kind of your thought process, right? Because your emails are super intense and super like edited, but you're saying on the same side, maybe just start posting. So how do you toggle between those two things?
You're right. You've identified two camps, and yes, you're right in saying actually that I sit in between both of them. There's an argument to be made on one side. So explored the one argument a second ago, which is this idea of starting. Mm-hmm. This is a marathon, not a sprint. You can't get to mile 10 until you've run mile 1. So you've got to start. Even if it sucks, it means the next one's going to be better. Great. You're building your workflow. You're becoming self-aware. These are all great things that might not be as visible, but they matter in how you'll show up later on in the race. But I've made a business and a brand out of essentially, I'm hired by people to create brands for them. They're positioning the visual brand that represents them online. So photography, brand identity, website. And then the final stage is promotion. So giving people a strategy, to be seen online, to get in front of the right people. And so I'm not just going to say you can be as successful on your own, learning things as you go, as you would be, honestly, hiring someone like me that's been in it for 10 years. I've worked in 31 countries, over 300 clients in at least 20, 30 industries. So there's an argument to be made on both sides. I think having a brand, having some direction, and having some feedback from someone that doesn't know you that well, that can look at what you're doing a little objectively, I think that's invaluable. And so typically when I'm hired by someone, they've reached a certain level of success in their business on their own, and they're looking for help and feedback to get to that next level. And that's typically what I provide. But it isn't cheap. I mean, it's, we're on the higher end of like personal branding, graphic design, and those kinds of things. But that's our world. So yeah, I sit in between those. I think, yes, there's a lot you can learn by doing, and you've got to start. But at the same time, to have the framework, you can get there quicker. You can become a musician, in the music industry and try and build your own brand, or you can go on American Idol and have the framework to get up to the top very quickly. Doesn't guarantee success, but there's a certain amount of framework, and process that can get you there faster.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, certainly you're like the massive shortcut that people can take and saying like, hey, just don't do this, this, and this. And they could have spent 2 years trying that on their own to find out whether or not it was going to work. Because let's be honest, you try something, you're not going to find out right away if it's going to work. It's got to have time to mature and develop, and especially if what you're doing isn't awesome right away, it's going to take some time to perfect it, like you mentioned. So I guess if I were to be like a little bit more tactical in my question for you about content quality over publishing, is that based more on the platform itself? Because like you said, Instagram, and I feel the same way, where Instagram to me is like a lot more casual. Like, especially when Instagram first came out, I would see someone's website to see if they were professional, and I would go to their Instagram to see if they were cool. Like, that's how I would evaluate things. And so, because Instagram was just much more casual, is that kind of how you evaluate what kind of filter you put on the content you put out? So obviously email is very important to you. That's getting sent out, assumably to clients, and then maybe far more interested people than what might see on your Instagram. Is that how you process it?
Yeah, great question. I love to talk about this. So for starters, I like to think of content strategy in this way. Every single personal brand is made up of two things: content, what you say; personality, the unique way that you and only you deliver that content or that information. And it can't be one without the other. So no one is going to buy into you solely based on content, in my opinion. Even people that skew heavy into the content, someone like Neil Patel, there's still 10% of personality that makes that content unique to that person and keeps them coming back for more. Okay. And so that, for starters, is what you want to think about in terms of being self-aware on where you are on that sliding scale of content to personality, almost like a ratio. Okay. When we decide where we want to show up online, I see different content models. I've been talking about this recently, but different kind of content models that people approach. So someone who's just getting started might have 5 hours a week to, spend online or spend promoting themselves. Maybe they split that time evenly like a pie, across 5 platforms, 1 hour a week, let's say, for this example. I think that's good for starters, but it can become overwhelming quickly, and you kind of find that you can't become, you become a jack of all trades and a master of none. So what I find people then progressing into, with some feedback of, here's where my audience is, and here's where I like creating, super important. I think people make decisions way too much on like, oh, there's more professional people on LinkedIn, so I'm going to prioritize that platform. There's professional people on TikTok as well. There's less professional people on TikTok, which means you're more likely to find them, in my opinion. So I care less about like, here's where your audience is based on demographics, and more, where do you like to create and where are you going to, shine? So someone like me, you already picked up on this, which is cool. I have 3 platforms that I prioritize: Instagram, because I enjoy it; email, because that's where the money is; and YouTube, mostly because it increases my discoverability, and it is the number 1 driver for email signups for me.
Oh, interesting.
I also studied broadcast journalism, and I really like it. I also have a podcast, and that's, selfish reasons for that too. Lauren and I, my colleague, get on, a setup like this, and we're able to just plow through ideas and discussions that then I can repurpose in many different ways. So I guess you could say I have 4, but long form content is podcasts and YouTube. I can't delegate someone to show up on YouTube for me. It has to be me, but I enjoy it as well. And so those are the 3 that I prioritize, and those are the ones that I spend my limited minutes on. The rest I delegate. I don't write my own LinkedIn posts. I don't write blog posts because I don't like it. And so I delegate the others. I focus on what I feel are most important. And then so I'm that little in-between content model. If the first is an even spread, the second is, a prioritizing of 3. The final model that I would say that I see often is when people focus on one platform for 6 months or a year, and they become super good at one thing and they grow it fast. That's what I think you have to do nowadays to grow quickly. I have some friends on Instagram. One is at the Lucas O'Keefe, is a great example of that. He grew to 75,000 followers on Instagram in a year because he focused on it and became a master. And so, yeah, I'm not that. I spread myself across a few because I feel like in order to do my job, I gotta be in the trenches. I gotta know what's happening to be able to tell people about it. So that's kind of, those are 3 models that I describe, and people can think about which one applies best for them. One is not better than the other.
Well, it's so funny, like, to be like completely transparent, I struggle with that a lot because I find, well, that's then I guess I'm in good company. Because of the fact that I've literally been on LinkedIn for that very reason, because I was like, okay, it's literally just professionals, or one would hope. And so I've started posting content on there, but a lot of it's been like video content that I've made elsewhere on YouTube or whatnot. But it's definitely not the most fun. I actually find Instagram to be the most fun for me. And yet, I've kind of avoided it for that very reason of like, like Instagram's kind of a smorgasbord of people, right? And, I'm not sure that's going to be the right place for me. But at the same time, realizing the fact that I have strengths, personality or what have you, that are going to shine better on some platforms than another. But it's hard to also justify like, hey, like 3/4 of the people who see this are never going to buy anything. And that's kind of a tough pill to swallow too. So it's been super challenging to kind of realize what the right answer is. And maybe there's not a right answer, but you seem to definitely swing more on what your strength is as opposed to the place.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to do any of these things. I can show you people that have been very successful in life that have no social media presence. But I think, if you're going to spend time doing it, you should enjoy it. And ideally, it's productive. So it's productive if where you're creating, ideally, there's going to be people who might discover you and might want to buy from you.
Right.
So I think it's a balancing of those things. I would say to you, we're all our own worst enemy, and you might identify with me some of the things that I do well on social media. When I think about it myself, the first thing I think of are all the things that I don't do well. I miss a week of content because I was busy with clients, or I posted a reel today that isn't that great. And I immediately go to this, we all do this, we go to this place of like, here are all the things I'm not doing right, or I'm not doing as good as everyone else. Other people don't see that. They don't think about it. They're not aware of it in the way that we are all aware of our own, things. Yeah. And I think, my comment to you would be, give yourself time and permission to figure out the platforms that are right for you based on where you like creating and where other people are, without it being a rush. I don't need an answer from you by Friday. I kind of want you to spend the time exploring them and seeing what feels good after not just one try, but like, a few attempts. And then you'll start to get some feedback, and you're going to be naturally guided to the platforms that are best for you. But you have to have permission. I'm giving you permission to spend the time to figure that out.
Right. That makes sense. I know we certainly enjoyed TikTok quite a lot. That's been super fun. So it's been a challenge to take a concept and shove it inside of a minute. But it makes you better at being more concise, I suppose. So
definitely.
So I'm kind of curious though, just as like another kind of tactical thing for people who are doing marketing who are listening in, is you said that you don't make all of the content that people see. So do you make like your YouTube videos and then give it to your blogger and say, hey, turn this into a blog? Or how does that work?
So I will delegate where possible, particularly for things that are time consuming, because I don't have a lot of time. At any given time, I'm juggling, I'd say, between 8 to 12 client projects, and that's what pays the bill. So I have to give that time and attention. Social media will sometimes have to take a backseat or a secondary or tertiary role in that. And that's just the way it is. Although I will say, very recently, I've been getting more brand deals for YouTube and for Instagram and those kinds of things. So this is kind of a new vertical that I'm exploring, and it feels kind of good to drag things that were in the content to-do list up to the client to-do list, because I'm getting paid for it, even if it's not a lot of money. It's kind of fun. It feels rewarding.
Right.
So I delegate where I don't have time to do it, and or someone can do it better than me. So a YouTube video takes 5 hours, and I've experimented with different workflows to land on one that I like. Unlike other creators, I script everything that I say. Everything that I say, I have a teleprompter. I studied broadcast journalism. I worked when I moved out to LA in 2011. I worked with TV hosts. I was trained in that world. So I know how to read from a prompter. For me, it takes less time to sit, focus, and either dictate or type, depending on my mood, a script in a structure that I've defined, and then I read it. And filming the video is the thing that takes the least amount of time.
Right.
It takes 10, 15 minutes, and I can do videos normally in one take. Done. Easy. I do 2 of them every single week, and I've done that for a year. Then it's hands off. So once I have scripted it, read it from the prompter, and written the description of the video, because I know I'm not going to want to do it later. I do it right when I'm writing the script of it. Then I hand it off. I've got a graphic designer that does the thumbnail in my Canva account for me.
Nice.
I've got a video editor that will take the footage and look at the script. And I've also saved any of the graphic elements to make his life easier. So I do that as well when I'm writing the script. It's like, this week I'm showing you an influencer platform called Bribe, and I point to it. I'll make sure he's got that logo in the folder rather than him having to go and chase that around.
Right.
But yeah, no, after the video's filmed, I'm done. Then I just have to post it. Even then, I don't watch it back or anything like that. I'm like, I just trust. If there's a mistake, oh well, learn next time.
Right.
So I delegate those things. But yeah, if I did everything myself, I wouldn't have time to be as present everywhere. Also, you mentioned my emails. I write my own emails.
Right.
I write my own
emails.
emails.
If that's where the money is, you don't want to outsource that.
Exactly. And sometimes I'll have people on my team, like Lauren, who works with me. She's a copywriter. So she'll say, no, let me rework that. If it's like a longer one, then I'll show it to her and she'll help me write sales emails. I'm terrible at writing sales copy. Terrible. I'm like really bad at selling things. No, I'm good at selling things. I just don't like being salesy, I guess. And she's really good at finding that balance. So she writes all of those.
That's awesome.
I'm just like, I like the emails that are like, here's something free. Here's a new video. Here's a podcast. I'm going live on Instagram. Like, I like those ones. But when I have to sell something, I'm like, oh, I need help. So you just got to know where you're strong. You got to know where can you delegate to make sure that you're operating in your area of genius, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the one thing that and I'm sure you've experienced this as well, since you have like a bit of a team, is people don't get how much time and effort and brain space it takes just to make sure that like you're casting vision and it's going to the right place, because
Yes.
you're not just doing the work anymore. You're like getting people to see what you're seeing so that when they do the work, they kind of land in the right place. And that takes a massive amount of time and effort. And you got to give yourself the brain space to actually do that, or you end up like doing a terrible job of giving direction to your team because you don't even know where you're headed because you haven't even had the time to think about it.
Yep. I still find myself in that place occasionally, but I think one thing that helps is to be really organized with your week, your structure. So I will not do phone calls on Mondays. Mondays are a no phone call day for me. And that's because I don't want the Sunday scaries. B, I just need to get into the week and I need to have that day to focus on my own stuff, or else I won't post. I won't be active on social media. Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's a Tuesday at the time we're recording this. Those are phone call days for me. I'll do podcast interviews. Anything like this that's interacting with a human virtually happen on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I might add that now everyone's used to working virtually But
Yeah.
prior to all of this was still how I worked. 2020 was my best year in business. The pandemic worked wonders for me. It sounds awful, but it was very good for our business and people realizing, damn, I'm at home. My God, I want to create this new business that I've been thinking about. Now's the time to actually do it. And we had like a waiting list last year of clients, and we were totally full. But this is how I've always worked.
Yeah.
So I've always loved traveling. I love being in Colombia because then I have a better excuse not to meet you in real life. I don't want to meet you in real life. I don't even want to go to a dinner. I don't want to meet you and even get paid for it in real life. I don't want to commute there. It's just inefficient. And we're a small business. We got a lot of things on our to-do list. And I am a big fan now that everyone is starting to wake up and realize that actually this is an amazing way to be productive by eliminating some of these little time sucks, like sitting in a car going somewhere, And
Right.
So this is how I've always done it.
It's so funny that you say that, because when I was first starting my start in video was in weddings. And so I remember at the beginning, I was like seeing all these weddings in Italy and all these other like gorgeous locations. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it'd be so amazing to be like a travel wedding videographer. And then I took my first plane flight to do that. And I'm like, this is stressful. Also, I'm getting paid like almost the same for like 4 times the headache. And granted, it was for a friend, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was my pleasure to be able to go and do that. But as it being a career move, I was like, nah, not happening. So I feel that, because the travel is just it's so exhausting, and like, you know what I mean? It's all this extra wear and tear on you when you could be doing so many other things.
I experienced the same thing in the speaking world. So speaking at conferences when the world is normal is something I do a lot of. For the first year, when I decided that this was something I wanted to do, I committed to speaking for free for a year. I'll do it. Anyone who will have me, ideally will cover my hotel and flight. I'll show up and I'll do it. And I did that for a year and travel. And that's where I started to go, oh, actually, this is really fun. Like I could be working in all of these places, at least in the eyes of the IRS, and working in all these places, but also getting to experience the world. But what's so funny now, it's like, if you're not paying me, I am not moving from this chair to go to this country or this country. I make a few exceptions. The last travel destination I went for speaking at a conference was Cairo, and they covered all my expenses. I didn't get paid for it, but they covered all my expenses, and I got to go to the pyramids, and they covered all of it.
Geez.
They covered the cost of me sitting on a camel to go see the view of all 4 pyramids. It was amazing.
Yeah, no kidding.
That was the last time I made an exception, and I don't see myself, even after that, I don't see myself. Yeah, it's not worth it. You got to guard your time. And the busier you get, the more disciplined you need to be to follow the rules that you create for yourself. So a few weeks ago, I made an exception. I had a brand audit, which I get paid $1,500 to do on a Wednesday morning. And it really screwed me up for the rest of that focused day. I'm used to focusing on Wednesdays. And honestly, it wasn't worth the money to lose that day on what I knew I wanted to do. And so I learned, like, just from that one instance, it's like, yeah, you think, oh, the money's great, all of this is great, but the more busy you become, the more disciplined you need to be to follow the rules that you create for yourself.
Dang. So, man, there's so many places I want to take this, because, oh man. So let's talk about momentum a little bit, and then I'd like to double back to Instagram. So obviously momentum is hugely important to you, because that's, to me, exactly what you're describing about your Wednesday. Your Wednesday was good. You got something done. You made money, but you lost momentum.
Yeah.
So how is it, like, what's a process that you go through to like build momentum? Obviously that's like a daily thing, both like personally, but obviously your business itself has momentum too. What do you do to like move that thing forward? What do you do to build momentum?
I am not the most disciplined person in the world, believe it or not. I just am not. And so I have to build those, instruments around me. Some of those are people that probably wouldn't appreciate being called an instrument, but you have to have those things around you to keep yourself accountable. So here's an example. When I'm working with a client, yes, it's to create a website. Yes, it's to create a brand, but it's to do it in a certain amount of time, and it's to do it well. In terms of an output, it's to do it right. And so in the middle of a project, it's never just about creating a website. We become accountability partners for our clients, and we work through all different kinds of things. We jokingly call it brand therapy. Sometimes the clients say, wow, this feels like therapy, because it really is unpacking a lot of like goals and competitive advantages and distractions and all different kinds of things like this. We have clients who cry. We've seen it all. I think in order to keep up momentum, you need to be disciplined, or you need to find discipline, and you need to find accountability, which is oftentimes in someone else. It's the difference between going to a gym and walking around going, okay, this place feels unfamiliar and I'm not even sure where to start, to also having, going back and having a personal trainer say, okay, here's what you're going to do, and I'm going to watch you do it right now. Do it. We play the role of accountability partner for our clients, but I think even if you've got a buddy or you've got someone in your industry and you can play that role and support each other, I think that's key. I think it's key to have that kind of accountability somewhere. I'm in a mastermind with 3 or 4 other like-minded, business owners, all women. We have a lot of fun. Everyone's in a, different lane. And I find that helps me. That's bi-weekly. So we skip a week, and that's nice. But even 1 hour a week to just say, okay, vocalizing, here's what I'm doing and here's what I'm going to get done by Friday. It's like, I don't know, it's wonders. So I think discipline, if you don't have it, then have people around you, that will help motivate you or keep you disciplined, and accountability. And if you can find that in yourself, great. If you can find it in someone else, which is more normally the case, even better. I have one more thought on this. So I find organization helps. Rather than keeping all my crazy ideas stored in Post-it notes all around me, I have a task management tool, Asana, and that's where we as a team keep track of everything we're doing. To add a layer to that, not just looking at your to-do list or, collaboratively with a team, I use a tool called EverHour, which is an overlay on Asana, and that allows me to track my time.
Oh, okay.
It is hugely important, even for people that are in their own business, just operating themselves, because there are an increasing number of things that will divert your attention. And by going through the act of timing yourself doing a task, it keeps you more focused and more accountable. This isn't, for us, it's efficient. It's not only how we bill for clients, we work on retainers. So every single person on my team keeps track to the minute when they're working on something. But I'm on the clock right now. I'm working right now. I'm recording a podcast interview with you. This is work.
Right.
There's a psychological element to that where I am saying this is just as important as when I'm hopping over to a client and billing my minutes for that.
Yeah.
This is just as important. And I need to make time to be able to do things like this. Working on myself is not less important than working on my clients. And
It's funny you have to convince yourself of that.
I do it every day. And by branding the days or organizing the days, it certainly helps. But timing yourself and then looking at the end of the month and going, you know what? I know I did a lot this month, but I'm not exactly sure what I did. You've got all of that data there to look back and say, you know what? Go through that list and highlight what you love doing, highlight what you hated doing, and see if you can delegate some of those things that you hated.
Right. Well, I think even as a leader, it's awesome too. It's like even with having like the task manager, project manager, whatever you want to call it. Because to your point that we talked about earlier today, you only see the things that you aren't doing well, or the things that are missing out, or the next thing that needs to get done. And for like your team, that can get really exhausting because all you're looking at is problems, and being able to have a time to like celebrate what you did, I think is super awesome, because I've definitely had that too, where like all I had was phone calls, and I'm like, I never once got to sat down on my computer and knock out some work, and you're beating yourself up about it, and you're like, no, like I made phone calls today. Like, I built relationships, I networked, I did a podcast. Like, that clearly matters, but you have to like convince yourself of it, because it's not like quote unquote work. And I don't know what your work experience before you had your own business was, but most people's work is like very well defined. Like, you come in at 9, you leave at 5, you have these tasks, you have a boss that tells you if you did a good job or not. Like, it's very clear, like other people are really shaping what you're doing. But when you're a business owner, you have to like create all of those things yourself. And sometimes it's difficult to do and convince yourself that doing 3 podcasts in a row was actually very important for your business and you should feel really good about it. But you also weren't making graphics for a client.
Yeah.
So then it's like, how do you feel just as good as about that as you did those other things? And it's all that head game.
That's it. I mean, that's it. I don't know if that ever will go away.
Right.
Because there are people, I just had this conversation on another podcast that I was recording, and she was speaking almost in a way of like admiring how I do everything that I do. And I'm constantly thinking, man, there's so many things that are so far down on my to-do list that I haven't even touched yet. And again, it's what we're talking about is this like outside perception and then the inner perception. They say people hear your voice differently than you hear your own voice. And it's kind of that idea, right? It's kind of that idea that like we always focus on what we haven't done, and people on the outside like, oh, wow, your photos are beautiful. Oh, wow, you show up on social media all the time. Like, well, it's just, I don't know that ever goes away. I don't know that it ever goes away, but you learn how to control it and manage it and be productive still.
Right. It's a head trip, that's for sure. It's always good to hear that when people are like, you don't want to be controlled what people's perspectives are, because obviously you got to like be true to your own values. But it sure is good to hear that sometimes from people like, hey, it looks like you're super busy, or it looks like what you're doing is really cool. And you're like, I guess it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, keep
Totally.
going. So I got to put you on the spot a little bit. I don't know if it actually is putting you on the spot, but I looked through your website. You've got like 3 different courses that you do. One of them, which is Instagram. Now, for me, I feel like people are increasingly frustrated with Instagram because of algorithm changes, UI changes. Just in general, it is becoming obviously an increasingly saturated place to be producing content. Is that just because people just don't have any clue what to do on Instagram, and taking something like a course or just doing the right strategy is all that's really necessary, and it just was easier before, now people are mad that it's not easy? Or is it actually like really becoming a gnarly place to try to make it?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think there's an argument that could be made about each of those points that you've expressed. Here's my perspective on Instagram, and part of why I chose that platform to create a course on. Again, I said at the beginning of this podcast that my audience are busy working professionals. Instagram, I would say, is the platform right now that is most likely to rob you of your time. Fits perfectly into what we're talking about. Instagram is a platform that is most likely to rob you of your time, although Clubhouse is coming up pretty fast in that department.
Right.
But Instagram's been very strategic with how they've grown. They've knocked out competitors simply by copying what other platforms are doing and making it work, incentivizing, for people to do those things on their platform. Instagram's not one social media platform. It's 5 social media platforms: Feed, Stories, Live, IGTV, Reels. Oh, there's more. The last category is more, because there's more than 5. So there's guides. There's so many different features and things that they launch and do that it's hard to know where to even start.
Yeah.
It's hard to know where to even start. And so the reason I made a course about it was to teach people the framework. You're a busy working professional. Here's how you need to understand how it works. And here are some tools that will help you do it, some templates, and really a structure I teach in about 2 hours of exactly how to think about it and how to keep up with the demands of this platform. So that's kind of my perspective on Instagram. However, we can say all that and it can be intimidating and it can be challenging, but where's the first place nowadays where people are going to look to decide if you're cool, to decide if you're legit? When I post a client project that I've spent hours mocking up for my website, I'd say probably 10 times the amount of people see it when I post it on Instagram than see it on my website. This is the reality of it. And so I think it's kind of a necessary evil. So I kind of teach a process that allows you to manage this necessary evil while not taking too much away from what you do for a living.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when stories first came out on Instagram, and that was a big buzz because if I remember correctly, the algorithm was different for stories than it was the feed because it was a new feature that they were rolling out. And so it was a little more forgiving than others. And obviously, Reels is in some way, despite the fact that it's like half the length as like a competitor for like TikTok and some of those other things. So I'm sure the algorithm is a little bit more forgiving on that than it is now stories in the feed. So maybe you're a better person to ask for that. But is the algorithm different for Reels? From what you can tell?
Yeah, I mean, I would say yes. I would say right now, yes. It's a newer feature and people are finding, I guess if the metric you're looking at is views, certainly Reels are getting potentially more views than other forms of content. Could that change in the future? Yes, when Reels become more normal, it will. But yeah, I mean, that's the new shiny object on Instagram right now, for sure.
Yeah.
But this is what Instagram does. I mean, Stories was born from Snapchat, let's not forget. I mean, even the idea of saving a post on Instagram, that was taken from Pinterest. The ability to go live was taken from Facebook, YouTube, any of these other platforms that had live streaming first. They just take everything that everyone else is doing and they try to keep you on their platform. Let's see what happens with Clubhouse, if there's going to be an audio focused live, whatever. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think the thing with Instagram is when people complain about the algorithm, I think that's the wrong thing to complain about. The algorithm is designed to give people content that they like and want to see more of. So the algorithm is based on a lot of things. It's based on who you're DMing with. It's based on what posts you're liking and commenting and saving and sharing. The algorithm is serving people in a great way. It's giving people the content they want to see. So if the algorithm is not working for you, then you need to create better content. End of story. You need to put more time and energy into conversation and engagement. People are like, look at me broadcasting. These are all the things I'm doing. Go look at my reel. Like, I want thousands of views, etc. It's like, well, no one cares what you're doing. Put the time in to turn social media from broadcast into a conversation and go, for example, look at people in your industry, other users that are doing something similar to you. Have a look at their comments on their top performing posts. Look at the people that are commenting, maybe the pinned comments or really thoughtful comments. Follow those people, reach out to them and say, hey, I saw your, comment on one of their posts and say, I love your perspective on personal branding. I'd love to connect. I mean, now you can have quick replies on Instagram. So you can already have that typed up and literally just click and send.
Boom.
That, and then that person, if we know that person is a brand hero or a super fan of someone else who creates like you, then there's a good chance they're going to become a super fan of you. That's the kind of thing that can have a powerful compounding effect in terms of engagement. People complain about the algorithm. I'm like, no, the algorithm's not the problem. Your content is the problem.
So it's kind of just like the idea that you could be a lazy marketer and make it an Instagram before, and that's just no longer the option.
Correct. I would wholeheartedly agree with that.
That's fair. Yeah, it's just it's funny just to hear the outcry about it, and people want to go to different places and whatnot. But maybe it's more a case of they want to continue to be a lazy marketer somewhere else. And realistically, I mean, like in all honesty, TikTok is kind of that place right now where they're like, they obviously have a very advanced algorithm. I can literally like something and my feed will change in real time. That's insane. But at the same time, I know plenty of people who have blown up on there, and it's just like whatever you're making, I'm sorry, it just isn't that cool. But somehow it makes it and gets in front of the right people or whatnot. And so That's kind of like the place of both where you can be a lazy marketer and still get views that make you happy. But as a strategic marketer, I'm sure it's much better. Are you on TikTok right now?
Yeah,
Okay.
I am. I don't create much on TikTok because it's not a priority platform for me. I'd love for it to
Fair.
become one. But there's only so many hours in the day, and I want to do the platforms that I am on well, but it is on my list. It is like in my content creation doc. Like I look at it every week and it said, make one TikTok. It says that, and I don't often do it.
You're like,
But
nah.
I will say, I know, well, it's not, I wish I had the time for it, but I don't.
Sure.
But I am starting to play a little bit more with Reels. And so I think that's going to set me up to create on that platform as well.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I've heard rumors that completion rate on TikTok is super important, just like it is with anything else. Like obviously, even with YouTube, completion rate is important.
Absolutely.
But so I know there is an argument being made that shorter TikToks are better to go, just not only because of keeping people's attention for that long. They don't necessarily want to watch a 1 minute video, but also because the completion rate's going to be higher, and so you'll actually rank better.
Yes.
I don't know how to say what I say any shorter than a minute, so I don't know. I guess maybe I just have to do more part ones and part twos, but
I think that you can learn how to. So when I think about social media, I think about how it can serve you selfishly. So the reason I podcast, for example, is I don't care if anyone listens to my podcast. Honestly, I don't. If they want to listen to it, fantastic. And we have lots of, well, not lots, but we have hundreds of people who listen every single week. I do very little promotion for it, but my business partner and I get on the phone like this. We're creative. We have a discussion, and then that becomes the inspiration for so many other things that I do. I think the same thing about TikTok. Yeah, I mean, if you have a TikTok that goes viral, I had one that went viral with over 5 million views, and I've only made about 6 TikToks in my life.
dang.
And the benefit of creating on TikTok, yeah, I mean, sure, you get lots of views and followers. It's a little bit like Monopoly money, but you become better as a creator. To create micro content, short form content makes you a better creator. To have to create within 15 seconds, you will become a better content creator with every single post you create. And that's what I like about that platform the most.
That's fair. Well, you kind of have to, because if you want to make content and then repost it to Reels, you got like 30 seconds or less. Or maybe it's like 25. It's super short.
I think Reels is 30 seconds now. When it launched, it was 15 seconds. I think it's up to 30 seconds now.
How generous of them.
Yes.
Well, cool. Well, hey, we were kind of running short on time, so I just wanted to kind of wrap it up with just this idea. Like, so the podcast, which we haven't even mentioned the name, it's the Death to Vanilla podcast. And the idea is you don't want to make vanilla content. You want to make content that stands out. And so obviously for you, it's literally your job to make people stand out. You're doing personal branding and just branding in general. If you had to give just like 2 or 3 things that you have found that really help people stand out as they're building their brand and putting their name out there for the first time, what would those things be? Because obviously there's just a huge amount of people trying to make it. It's really hard to stand out.
It's really hard to stand out. I think there's a few things. First thing I would say is self-awareness. When we talked earlier about content to personality ratio, be really aware of what makes you great. I often ask when I'm giving a presentation, I ask the audience 2 questions. What makes you great and what makes you memorable? Okay. What makes you memorable is ideally, something really unique to you and how you talk about things or the way, etc. What makes you memorable? Why are people going to think about you? Why are you going to be top of mind instead of someone else? So self-awareness is the first thing. The second would be rules, discipline, framework, process, workflow. Any of those things. For me, anything visual with how I show up online is taken directly from my brand board. And that is essentially a long layered Photoshop file with my logos in it, my colors, typography, print and web examples that my designer has designed for me. And my job is to follow the rules. When he's mocked something up in there, I simply follow it. And the more I deviate from what's shown there, the more something I create looks like it's not from me. Okay. So someone like you who has connected with me and consumed my content, everything looks and feels cohesive because it looks the same. And then you hear me and then it sounds the same.
Right.
You know? And whether it's written or it's spoken, it all feels cohesive. It's a lot like online dating. If you consume my profile, and when I show up in real life, I'm nothing like how I've portrayed myself online. That's never a positive experience. Ever. That's never a positive experience. Ever.
Unless it's better than your profile, then they're like, okay.
I guess, but I think even then, I mean, people wouldn't have moved forward with the date if it wasn't impressive to start with. So,
That's fair.
yeah, I mean, I think you want to put your best foot forward online to increase the conversion of those dates, to increase the conversion of those audience, those listeners, etc. So I think
100%.
those are the two most important things: is self-awareness, and discipline or framework rules. I sometimes call it. Create rules for yourself and then follow them.
I think that's fair. So then I've got to ask, what do you believe is your memorable thing that makes you stand out?
I should have a good answer for this, but I'm so busy thinking about everyone else
Ooh.
that I guess I don't think about it for myself. Okay, I have an answer.
I'm ready.
Let's see if my answer is consistent with how you would answer this question about me. I think what's memorable about me is I'm not afraid to inject my personality into what I do, be it humor or honesty, that balanced with efficiency, conciseness, saying what needs to be said in the fewest number of words possible, I think is pretty unique and memorable about the way that I show up online.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Oh, that's exciting. Thank you for sharing that. I know that you're putting you on the spot a little bit.
No, I like it. I like it. I think it's fun. It's fun because these conversations like this are really valuable because even something like this, if I was really smart, I would have hit record on my own line here and I could have this transcribed and I could write 200 tweets from this conversation. This is the perfect kind of environment for creating content because we're essentially strangers with similar interests, and that setup leads to really interesting conversations. So I appreciate you having me.
Oh, absolutely. I can send you whatever you want from this.
Great. Oh, you just send me when it's done, when it's posted, and I'll post it out and all of that.
Well, we transcribe everything because we bake in captions and stuff like that, and so I can send you the transcript if you want.
Sure, that would be awesome.
If that's helpful for you.
It is helpful. Look at us content creators. Like,
boom. Dude, it's about maximizing your effort, you know what I mean? And that's kind of like the whole point with your traveling. It's like, okay, you're in this place, it's beautiful, you're there, you might as well do something with it, So like you said, you're already there, you're at somewhere for a conference, now you're working somewhere interesting, now you're doing a photo shoot. So now you have content, ideas, networking, all that can happen just because you went somewhere for a conference. I think that's a pretty efficient use of time.
Thank you. That's me.
Yeah, well, dude, with the amount of content that you have to make to stay online, you have to be efficient. It's just not possible to keep up with that otherwise.
Totally agree.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, really. Could you just share with everyone different places they can find you online, your Instagram handle, and those things? We'll make sure to put that in the video, show notes, and so on and so forth, but just let people know how to find you.
Love it. So if you made it this far in the podcast episode, you might as well go over to Instagram and say hello. Send me a DM at Phil Pallen. We also podcast. So my colleague and my co-host Lauren and I have a podcast called Brand Therapy. We have over 100 episodes where we work through branding challenges. We also learn from smart people on particular topics that interest us for our listeners. I send out emails. So that's philpallen.co/list. They're short, they're actionable, worksheets, videos, all different kinds of things like that. And YouTube. Yeah. If you're interested in learning more about, for example, Instagram strategy, I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/philpallen. And then, as you mentioned, I've got 3 courses on my website, philpallen.co: content mastery, Instagram mastery, and email mastery. If those are interesting topics for you, I'll make sure I give you a promo code that you can put in the show notes so people can get 50% off.
Do it. No, that'll be super good. Guys, be sure to do that. As we discussed Instagram is a place you can't do lazy marketing, so take the course. So you can
Done.
figure it out. So I'm quite sure I'll probably be running through some of your courses as well because, you just can't get too good at the things that make you money, can you?
Exactly. I love that because you learn for yourself, but also even if you're working with clients, that's the thing that excites me the most is like people learn something then they can actually make money from. Love that.
Dude, everything that we learn for ourselves, then we know it works when we make a suggestion. It's not just an idea that we found in a blog post. It's like, no, like we post a TikTok. So when we say you should be on TikTok, it's because we are. Like we value it enough that we spend time and money to do that. Cool, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know we went a little bit over, but I appreciate it very much. And I know I got a lot out of it. So I know other people that when we post this and chop this up and put it all over the place, people will too. So thank you very much.
Happy to share it whenever you've got it ready. I'll blast it out to people.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Awesome. Have such a good day and I'll chat with you soon.
Awesome, man. Thanks.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Later.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Death to Vanilla podcast. Now, if you made it this far, I'm guessing you probably heard something that was inspiring or helpful, and we would love to hear about it. So if you could drop that information in the comments or shoot me an email, steven@burkhartcreativeagency.com, that would go a long way to helping us choose guests and create content that really bring you value. Now, Instagram is my favorite social media platform, but I'm sure you have yours, and so we encourage you to find us on your favorite platform so that you have a chance to learn more about marketing that can help you out. Now they say a rising tide rises all boats. So we ask that you would like, subscribe, and follow us so that way the traffic that we get to our channel helps all of the guests that have been on. Our traffic is their traffic and that helps everybody out and it's super easy to do. So if you could rate us, like us, add us, follow us, whatever you need to do to help us out, that would go a long way. So we appreciate you and hope to catch you on the next episode of the Death to Vanilla podcast.
Wanna cause no problems. I just wanna live my life, but I keep on hearing about nonsense. Me and my dons ain't mobsters, but you know when you see imposters, we know how to read them faces, same way you know how to read them comments. If you wanna talk, let's talk, but around here, make sure you walk and your talk is constant.